Hi, it's Angela from Angela's Paper Arts. Today I just want to do a quick tip video on using vellum and how to attach it to your projects without it being visible. First of all, just so you know what you can do with vellum, you can just cut it and adhere it over some paper, and what it does, it softens the colour, so you can see how that just softens a pattern behind it. That's the simplest thing to do with vellum. You can also punch it out, so I use this old leaf punch from Stampin' Up to punch out an object or an image there. You can emboss it. So if I bring that over so you can see it a bit better, this has been dry embossed, and I use the current joined together 3D embossing folder, and that's what it looks like. And I ran that through my Stampin' Cut machine, and the vellum is now embossed, so you could use either side really, because they're both sides are pretty. So the other thing you can do with your vellum is use your alcohol markers or your stamping blends with it, and it becomes a stained glass window effect. I do recommend you colour on the back, so if I just use this granny apple green colour and scribble on it and then turn it over, no one's going to wipe that off in any way, shape or form. I prefer the blends over a water-based marker for this technique, because once it dries very quickly, and once it's dry you can adhere it to whatever. If you are going to stamp on vellum, you do need an archival type ink, such as Stays On ink. So I'd recommend you stamp with Stays On one side and colour it on the other side if you do want to get the stained glass effect. I did a few quite a number of years ago, which you'll find on my blog. So how to adhere vellum. Vellum can be challenging to say the least. I'll just move that out of the way. My favourite way to adhere vellum is to put it under, hide the tape underneath an embellishment. So if I was going to adhere this onto the card base, I would put my embellishment on and then run some double-sided tape where the embellishment is, so that you can't see it when it goes down onto the cardstock. That's the easiest way, no fuss, and it stays stuck, so that's not a problem. And it's not seen because it's actually hidden behind the embellishment. The other thing you can do, if you've got some embellishments here, you can just put a bit of tape there, or even just use a little glue dot to attach the vellum onto the back of whatever the embellishment happens to be. So that's the simplest way. The downside with tape is this: if you don't cover it, you are seeing this line of tape, and it's pretty ugly. You don't want that visible on your card or project or scrapbooking page, whatever you're doing. It really does need to be covered up. So if I take just one of the embellishments I had handy, you would have to cover it like that. But that vellum is not going anywhere when you use tape. So there's certainly advantages to tape, but there's also disadvantages. Probably my favourite way of using it and adhering it so that it doesn't get seen through the item, and you can see here I'm not touching that, that's not coming off at all. That's glued on, and that is using the Tombow multi-purpose glue method, where you sponge it on very, very lightly. And I can't stress that enough. You need a light touch. If you get very heavy-handed, this is what will happen. You will see the glue through the vellum. I just wanted to do that to show you as an example. But if you do just a slight touch, so all you need to do is just put a little drop of Tombow on your silicone mat, and this is the Stampin' Up silicone mat. I'll just put those aside, and then you just spread it thin onto your sponge, and just, as I said, a light touch onto your vellum. You can see sponge is starting to stick, and then adhere it onto the paper. And as you saw here, that's not going anywhere. I didn't sponge the bottom of that, that's why that's lifting, but the rest of the leaf is not lifting at all, and I used just that method. So I have a little sponge. You could use a makeup sponge. These are artist sponges that Stampin' Up used to supply, and I've marked it with glue and I keep that in a bag separate to all my other sponges because it does get very tacky. And there you go. You can't see the glue through the vellum when you do it very lightly with the Tombow. It's the best seal. So that's all I wanted to show you today. Just some tips on using vellum, what to do, what not to do. And as I said, don't get heavy-handed with the Tombow because that will be your result. If you like that result, that's fine. But there are so many things you can do with vellum, and it really does soften and add some extra texture onto a project, whether it be a card, scrapbooking page or 3D item. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Bye.